My name is Rachel Bennett. I'm 41 years old. My boyfriend doesn't know about my midnight ritual, and I've never been caught. I want to be clear about something before I start. I am a grown woman. I have a mortgage. I manage a household. I help my son with homework, remind my daughter to brush her teeth, and I've never once missed a dentist appointment. I am, by every reasonable measure, someone who has her life together. And 3 or 4 nights a week, I sneak out of my own house at midnight to eat food alone in the backyard, like something that doesn't want to be seen. This has been going on for 2.5 years. My boyfriend has never caught me. My kids have never caught me. The neighbors, well, the neighbors might know something, but we've never talked about it. I don't fully understand why I do it. I've tried to explain it to myself, late at night, sitting there in the dark with cold pizza in my hands, but the explanation always feels smaller than the feeling. The best way I can describe it is this. It's the only 25 minutes of my day that belong entirely to me. No one needs anything. No one is asking me questions. No one is filling the silence. And in a house that is always full of life, that kind of silence feels almost forbidden. Let me explain how it started. Because it didn't start as a secret. It started as exhaustion. 2.5 years ago, I was working through a stretch that felt like it was slowly pressing down on my chest. Deadlines. Calls at bad hours. The kind of stress that follows you into bed and sits beside you even when you close your eyes. I wasn't sleeping. I'd wake up around midnight, stare at the ceiling, try to convince myself to go back to sleep. Most nights I failed. So I'd get up, quietly, carefully. And one night, I went downstairs and found 2 slices of leftover pizza in the fridge. I didn't want to heat them up. The microwave felt too loud, too announcing. So I took them outside, sat on the patio steps, and ate them cold. There was nothing special about the pizza, just pepperoni, Tuesday night leftovers. But the moment, the cold air, the silence, the way the world felt paused, it did something to me, something immediate, something I didn't question. I sat there longer than I needed to, longer than made sense, just breathing, thinking about nothing important. And when I went back inside, I slept, deeply, like something inside me had reset. I did it again 3 nights later, not because I had to, because I wanted to, and that was the beginning. At first, it was simple. Whatever was in the fridge. Leftovers. Cold food. No planning. Just slipping outside when the house finally went quiet. But like most things that quietly take over your life, it evolved. Phase 1 was accidental. Phase 2 was intentional. That's when I started ordering just a little more food than we needed at dinner. Nothing obvious. Just enough to leave behind a future. A small reserve. My boyfriend thinks I'm bad at estimating portions. I'm not. I'm very precise. I just don't estimate for the same reason he thinks I do. Phase 3 was where it became something else. Something deliberate. Something structured. I keep a hoodie in the back of the closet. Gray. Soft. I told him I donated it 2 years ago. I didn't. It lives behind the winter coats waiting. There's a camping chair in the garage we've never once used for camping. A stack of paper plates hidden behind old tools. A bottle of hot sauce tucked behind things no one ever touches. Everything has a place. Everything has a purpose. And then there's the timing. This is the part I've refined more than I probably should admit. I wait until he's been asleep at least 45 minutes. Early sleep is unreliable. Too light. Too easy to disturb. But after 45 minutes, his breathing changes. Slower. Deeper. I've learned the difference. Not because I wanted to, because I needed to. I get up slowly. Not exaggerated slow. Natural slow. Like I'm just getting water. I tried moving carefully once, too carefully. He woke up, looked at me, confused, and asked, "Why are you walking like that?" I told him my back hurt. He believed me, went back to sleep. I stood in the hallway for 3 minutes after that, not moving, just listening, learning. Now I know better. Natural movement is invisible. The stairs, always the right side. The left side creaks, not always the same steps. Depends on the weather. I've mapped them. I don't think about it anymore. My body just knows. In the kitchen, I never turn on the main light. Only the soft glow under the cabinets. Enough to see. Not enough to announce. The food is already staged. No searching. No noise. Efficiency matters. And the door, the handle is everything. You don't let it click. You hold it down. Open. Close. Release only when it's sealed. The click is the enemy. Outside, no lights. The motion sensor stopped working a long time ago. At least, that's what I told him. I sit in the chair. I eat. And for 25 minutes, I am not someone anyone needs. I know how that sounds. I do. I know it sounds like I'm hiding something bigger than it is. But I'm not. I'm not cheating. I'm not lying about anything that matters. I'm just stepping outside of the version of myself that exists for everyone else. Inside that house, every room belongs to something. The kitchen is responsibility. The living room is noise. The bedrooms are expectations. Even at midnight, those things don't disappear. They wait. But outside, in the dark, it's just air, just quiet, just me. And the strange part is, the more I perfected it, the more I realized this wasn't something I could explain to anyone, not even him. Because if I told him, he'd laugh. He'd probably want to join me, sit beside me, turn it into something we share. And that would ruin it. Because the whole point is that it's mine. And maybe that's the part I haven't said out loud yet. The part that makes this feel less like a habit and more like something I'm protecting. It's not the food. It was never the food. It's the silence. And the fact that, for 25 minutes a night, no one knows where I am. By the time I realized this wasn't just a habit anymore, it was already a system, not a casual one, a precise one, the kind you don't talk about out loud because the moment you do, it starts to sound excessive, or worse, intentional. There's a difference between something you do and something you plan, and somewhere along the way I crossed that line, quietly, completely. The hoodie stayed hidden, the chair stayed in the garage, the hot sauce stayed behind things no one ever touched, everything exactly where it needed to be. But the real evolution was the protocol. I don't think I've ever been more disciplined about anything in my life. Not work, not parenting, not even my relationship. Yeah. Timing became everything. I learned his patterns, not in a controlling way, in an observational way. The way you learn the rhythm of someone you live with, the way his breathing settles, the way he shifts once before falling into deeper sleep, the way silence in the house changes depending on who's awake and who isn't. I started checking my son's door before I even thought about moving. A thin line of light under the frame meant abort. No light meant proceed. My daughter. Her room faces the backyard. I didn't think about that at first. Not until later. Not until it almost mattered. But I'll get to that. At this point, everything worked. Smooth, controlled, predictable. And for a while, I thought I had perfected it. I was wrong. The first real complication was the neighbor. 6 months in, around 12:50 a.m., I was outside with ribs, not casual ribs. The kind that take time, the kind you don't waste. I heard something on the other side of the fence. Movement, just enough to make me stop. Rib halfway to my mouth. And then a face appeared above the fence line. A man, from next door, standing on something to see over, holding a sandwich. We looked at each other. He looked at my ribs. I looked at his sandwich. No one spoke. Not a single word. 4 seconds. Maybe 5. Then he nodded. Once. Slow. I nodded back. And just like that, it was over. He disappeared. I went back to eating. We've spoken since then. About lawns. About the HOA. About the new family at the end of the block. We have never once mentioned that night. There are some things you don't break by talking about. And whatever that was, it didn't need words. The second complication was the dog. My sister visited in October. She brought her dog. Big, loud, too observant. I didn't factor that in. That night, I was outside with a pizza box when I heard movement inside. Then nails on the floor. Then, the door. Before I could react, the dog was there, standing in front of me, looking at me like he had just uncovered something deeply personal. No. I froze. He didn't bark, didn't move, just stared. I gave him a piece of pizza. He took it gently, sat down, and kept staring. I gave him another piece. We reached an understanding. He went back inside. I finished the rest of the pizza. My sister never said anything. The dog never told her. Some secrets stay where they're found. But the third incident, that one stayed with me. My son. He's 11, light sleeper, comes downstairs sometimes at night for water. I knew that. I had always accounted for it. Except that night, I didn't. I was outside maybe 8 minutes when I heard it. The door handle. Not opening. Not yet. Just pressure. The sound of someone about to come through. I had seconds. I closed the pizza box, shoved it under the chair, pulled the hoodie up over my face, which made no logical sense, but instinct doesn't ask for logic. And I sat still. Completely still. The door opened. He stepped out, 1 foot on the patio, looked around. The light was off. I was in shadow, not moving, not breathing. And somehow, he didn't see me. He stood there for a second, then turned, went back inside. The door closed.
Shamim.
I didn't move. Not for 30 seconds. Maybe longer. My heart was so loud I was sure it would give me away even after he was gone. I stayed outside another hour. Not because I wanted to. Because I couldn't go back in. Not yet. The next morning at breakfast, he looked at me and said, "Did you hear something outside last night?"
Yeah.
I kept my voice steady. Like what? He shrugged. "I don't know. I thought I saw something on the patio." I nodded. Calm. Controlled. Probably a raccoon. He paused, then nodded back. "Yeah, probably." I looked down at my coffee. I am the raccoon. That should have been enough. That should have been the moment I stopped, scaled it back, reconsidered,
Shamti.
but I didn't. Because here's the thing I didn't expect. The closer I got to being caught, the more I realized how much I needed it. Not wanted, needed. And that's when something shifted. Because up until then, this had been a harmless habit, a quiet ritual, a strange little thing I did for myself. But now, there were lies, small ones, technically harmless, but still intentional. And I started to understand something I hadn't before. This wasn't just about silence anymore. It was about having something that no one else had access to, not even him. And for the first time, that thought didn't feel simple. It felt important, which should have concerned me. It didn't. Not yet, because I still believed I was in control. I still believed this was small. I still believed I could stop whenever I wanted. I was wrong. The first real mistake I made wasn't outside. It was at breakfast. That's the thing about secrets. People imagine the danger lives in the dramatic moments. The back door opening, a shadow moving across the patio, a close call in the dark. Sometimes it does, but more often, it lives in ordinary places. In the recycling bin, in a smell that lingers, in a phone buzzing at the wrong time, in one raised eyebrow across a kitchen counter. The pizza box incident was my fault. Completely. No bad luck. No outside variable. Just carelessness. I had finished a late-night session. Pepperoni, 2 slices, extra hot sauce, and gone back inside, feeling calmer than I had all week. The next morning, I moved through breakfast on autopilot. Coffee, toast for the kids, reminder about a permission slip, half listening while my boyfriend talked about something frustrating at work. I forgot about the box. Didn't flatten it. Didn't bury it. Just dropped it whole into recycling like someone who had nothing to hide.
Wow.
He found it the next morning. Lifted it out with one hand while pouring coffee with the other. "Did you order pizza?" he asked. I looked up too fast, then made myself slow down. "Yeah, last week." He frowned. "I don't remember pizza last week." "I think it was Thursday." "Why didn't you say anything?" It was such a small question. Casual, almost lazy, but there was something underneath it. Not suspicion exactly, more like curiosity with edges.
Awesome.
I shrugged and reached for my mug. "You were already asleep." He looked at me for a second too long. Not enough to accuse. Enough to make my pulse kick once, hard. Then he just said, "Okay." Threw the box away. Went back to his coffee. That was all. Nothing dramatic. No confrontation. No follow-up. But the whole time I stood there smiling like nothing was wrong, my heartbeat felt loud enough to shake the cabinets. That was the morning I created a disposal system. Immediate breakdown. Bottom of the bin. Covered. Never again. The smell incident came before that. Early on, before I understood that wings leave evidence. Anyone who has ever eaten chicken wings knows this. The smell doesn't stay politely on the plate. It gets into your hands, your sleeves, your breath. It follows you like a decision. I came back upstairs around 1 in the morning after a particularly good session. Mild rain, cold air, hot wings, absolute silence, and slid into bed thinking I'd pulled it off perfectly. He rolled over without opening his eyes and said, "What is that smell?" My whole body went cold. I forced a small laugh. I went outside for air. Maybe the neighbors were grilling late. He opened one eye. "At 1 in the morning?" I don't know why I said this, but I did. Marcus is kind of weird. He made a soft sound that might have been a laugh. "Yeah, he really is." Then he rolled over, went back to sleep. I lay there awake, staring into the dark, smelling my own hands and realizing just how thin the line was between safe and exposed. After that, I added sanitizer to the setup. A small bottle hidden with the rest of the gear. Problem solved. Mostly. Marcus's reputation took an unfair hit, but he remained unknowingly useful to me. Then there was the delivery incident. which to this day I still think was the universe testing me. Usually I staged leftovers. That was cleaner, safer, no paper trail beyond what I could manage. But one night I wanted food that hadn't existed at dinner. I wanted fresh fries and a burger from a place across town, and I let the craving make decisions. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was timing. I placed the order too early. My phone buzzed while we were both still awake. He glanced over from the couch. "Did you just order food?" My stomach dropped so hard it almost hurt. "No, I was just checking if that place delivers late." He tilted his head. That sounded like a confirmation. The room went very still. Not literally. The TV was on. One of the kids was still moving around upstairs. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen. But between us, stillness. I made myself pick up my glass of water. I accidentally hit checkout before I finished the cart. He kept looking at me. Just for a moment. Then he nodded once and went back to his book. Okay. That word almost broke me. Because it wasn't belief. It was postponement. A quiet setting aside of something that didn't make sense. And I knew it. I sat there another few minutes pretending to watch TV, then got up, went to the bathroom, waited until I could hear nothing from downstairs except the dishwasher and the low volume of the show. By the time I came back, he was asleep on the couch. The food arrived at midnight exactly. Perfect, which somehow made it worse. Because good timing after bad judgment doesn't feel like success. It feels like surviving something you should have avoided. Then came my daughter's window, and that one changed me. Her room faces the backyard. I had always known that in theory, but theory and danger are not the same thing until they touch. That night, I was eating chips and salsa, which was already a poor tactical choice. Chips are louder than people remember. Loud in the wrong kind of way. Sharp, dry, impossible to make discreet. I had just taken a bite when I heard movement above me. Small. Shift of sheets. A bed adjusting. Then her voice. Sleep thick. Soft. Saying something I couldn't fully make out. Something like, "Not the blue one." Then silence. I froze with a chip halfway to my mouth. Didn't breathe. Didn't chew. Didn't even blink for what felt like minutes. Nothing else happened. No light came on. No curtain moved. She was asleep. Dreaming. Completely unaware. But I sat there in the dark feeling this cold ripple move through me. Because for the first time, the ritual didn't feel private. It felt close to the edges of the people I loved. Close enough to brush against them. Close enough to leave a mark. I ate the rest of the chips one at a time, slowly, each crunch sounding enormous. The next day, I added window checks to the protocol. Every backyard-facing window. Every time. No exceptions. That should have been the point when I accepted I'd taken this too far. It should have been. But the worst moment, the one that still tightens something in my chest when I think about it, came 8 months ago, when his mother stayed with us for a week. Her name is Linda, and Linda is observant in a way that makes you feel tidy when she walks into a room. Not judgmental, not rude, just impossible to fool if she decides to look closely. The guest room is on the first floor. Side yard view, direct line toward the patio. I saw the risk immediately, so I suspended everything. 3 nights. No ritual, no backyard. No hoodie, no chair, nothing. By the 4th night, I was restless. I could feel it all evening. That thin, irritated feeling under my skin, like I'd been talked to all day in a language just slightly too loud. There were leftover wings in the fridge. I knew they were there. I kept pretending not to. At 12:30, I gave in. Told myself she'd been asleep by 9 every night. Told myself I knew the house. Told myself 4 nights of caution had earned one small exception. That kind of thinking is how people ruin their own lives. Quietly, reasonably, one harmless exception at a time. I was outside maybe 12 minutes when the guest room light came on. I saw it from the corner of my eye, and every muscle in my body locked. The geometry of that moment is burned into me. The window, the patio, the angle, the distance. If Linda pulled back that curtain and looked out, she would see me clearly. A grown woman in a gray hoodie sitting alone in the dark with chicken wings in her lap like some kind of suburban ghost. I did not look toward the window. Instinct said look. Fear said look. But I knew better. If I turned my face, light would catch it. So I kept my eyes down. At the plate. At my hands. At the ridiculous, incriminating wing I was still holding. The light stayed on. 1 minute. Then 2. Maybe more. Time changed shape. I sat absolutely still. Not eating. Not swallowing. Not moving. Just listening to my own pulse and the distant hum of the refrigerator through the wall. Then the light went off. I waited 5 more seconds. maybe 10. Then I stood up, left the rest of the wings on the plate, carried nothing, slipped inside, closed the door without a sound, took off the hoodie in the garage, washed my hands in the downstairs bathroom for a full 45 seconds, and went upstairs. I lay down beside him and stared into the dark until morning. Linda came to breakfast cheerful, normal, asked about coffee, talked about the weather, complimented the jam, did not look at me strangely, did not ask questions, did not pause in any noticeable way. Either she never looked out the window, or she looked and saw something she couldn't make sense of, or she saw exactly what was there and decided it wasn't her business.
M.
I still don't know which possibility unsettles me most. That was the first time I truly understood what frightened me. It wasn't being caught eating. It wasn't the absurdity of the ritual. It wasn't even the lies.
M.
It was being seen in that version of myself. Alone. Hidden. Protective of something I couldn't explain without sounding selfish. Because if someone asked me, right there, under that patio darkness, "What are you doing? Why are you out here? Why does this matter so much?" I don't know if I could have answered. Not honestly. Not without saying something bigger than pizza. Bigger than silence. Bigger than a woman needing air. And once I realized that, I couldn't unknow it. This wasn't just a secret habit anymore. It was a boundary I had built in the dark. One no one else knew existed. And the strange thing was, the more dangerous it felt, the more sacred it became. After Linda left, I told myself I would stop. Not dramatically, not in some grand, decisive way. Just quietly, the way it started. I would let it fade, replace it with something more reasonable. Something that didn't require timing, hiding, lying about hoodies that technically didn't exist anymore. I lasted 4 nights.
S.
On the 5th night, I was standing in the kitchen at 12:17 a.m., staring at the refrigerator like it had said something to me first. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that should feel peaceful. But instead, it felt full, like silence that had weight, like something waiting.
Right.
I opened the fridge, closed it, opened it again. There were 2 slices of pizza on the second shelf, pepperoni, left over from dinner.
The bomb.
I didn't move for a long time. Because by then, I knew exactly what this was. It wasn't hunger. It wasn't habit. It wasn't even comfort.
That.
It was control. Not control over anyone else. Not over my life. Over myself. Over one small piece of time that didn't belong to anyone but me. Being a mother means you are available. That's the agreement. Unspoken. Constant. The kids need something. You respond. They don't schedule it. They don't ask if it's a good time. They just need. And you give. Because you love them. Because that's what it means.
S.
Being in a relationship, especially with someone like him, means you are present. Emotionally. Mentally. Consistently. He is not a bad man. He is not careless. He is not distant. He is a lot. In the best way. He fills space. Fills conversations. Fills the house with plans and thoughts and energy and movement. He notices everything. Talks about everything. Feels everything out loud. And most of the time, I love that about him. But sometimes, I don't want to be responded to. I don't want to be included. I don't want to be asked what I'm thinking. Sometimes, I want to exist without being seen. And that is a hard thing to admit, even to myself. Because it sounds like distance, like withdrawal, like something broken. But it isn't. It's balance. At least, that's what I tell myself. I've thought about telling him, not as a confession, more like a strange little truth. Hey, I go outside at midnight sometimes and eat alone in the dark. He would laugh. I know he would. He'd tilt his head, smile, maybe shake it slightly like he does when something surprises him but doesn't upset him. Then he'd say something like, "Why didn't you just tell me?" And then he'd want to come with me. He'd sit next to me in that chair, or bring another one. He'd talk, at first softly, then normally, then fully. And it would become something we share, something we do together. And it would disappear. Not physically. The backyard would still be there. The chair, the air, the silence. But the space would be gone. Because it wouldn't be mine anymore. And that's the part I can't explain without sounding selfish, or ungrateful, or distant in a way that doesn't match how I feel about him at all. Because I do love him. I love the way he shows up, the way he cares, the way he fills the house with life. And maybe that's exactly why I need the opposite of him sometimes. The quiet, the stillness, the absence of expectation. Not forever, not even for long, just 25 minutes. I've started noticing it in other people, the small private things they protect. My friend Marcus, he runs before sunrise. Every morning. Same route. Same time. He told me once it's the only hour no one can reach him. My brother keeps a fishing rod in his car. Doesn't tell his wife. Stops by the lake some evenings before coming home. Sits there. Doesn't always fish. Just sits.
Yeah.
Everyone has something. This just happens to be mine. Cold pizza. Sometimes wings. Once, an entire slice of my own birthday cake, which I stand by. The hoodie. The chair. The quiet. Tonight is pizza again.
Messy.
Dinner was loud. Good. Normal. My son spilled his drink. My daughter argued about screen time. He talked about something stressful at work, and I listened, asked questions, said the right things. We watched half a show. He fell asleep on the couch. I helped him upstairs. He said goodnight without fully waking up. And now, I'm sitting here, waiting. There are 2 slices in the fridge. I made sure of that. He even said it earlier. We ordered too much again. I smiled, said, I can never get the amounts right. That part is still true.
Yeah.
In about 10 minutes, I'll get up. I'll walk naturally down the right side of the stairs. Avoid the steps that complain when the weather shifts. I'll use the under cabinet light. Just enough. I'll take the slices. No plate tonight. Less noise. The door handle. Slow. Controlled. No click. Outside. No light. The chair will be where it always is. And for 25 minutes, I will sit in the dark and eat cold pepperoni pizza and listen to nothing and breathe air that doesn't ask anything of me. He'll be 10 feet above me, asleep. He has no idea. And maybe that's the only part that still unsettles me. Not the ritual, not the secrecy, but how easily I've learned to separate this version of myself from the one he knows. How natural it feels now. How practiced. How quiet. Because I used to think the question was, how long can I keep this going? Now, the question feels different.
Pamas.
What happens the night I don't want to come back inside? The pizza will be gone. The chair will be empty. The house will still be there,
Cam.
waiting. And for the first time in 2.5 years, that thought doesn't feel impossible. It feels close. I check the windows. All of them. No movement. No light.
Masem.
The house is asleep. I reach for the hoodie, the one that doesn't exist anymore. And I pause, just for a second. Listening. Because for the first time, I think I hear something. Not outside. Upstairs. A floorboard. A shift. And then his voice. Soft. Not fully awake. Rachel? My hand tightens around the fabric. My heart stops. I don't answer. And in the silence that follows, I realize something I hadn't planned for. The protocol doesn't cover this. It never did. Because this isn't about timing, or noise, or shadows. This is about being seen. And I don't know which version of me he's about to find. The one in the house, or the one that only exists in the dark. And this time, there's no place to hide.
Bab.
Not anymore.